And we have breaking news at this hour, just into CBS News election headquarters. CBS News can project Republican Deb Fischer will win re-election in the state of Nebraska. And that means we can now project that Republicans will take control of the Senate. This flips the Senate, which Democrats had controlled, with Vice President Kamala Harris's tie-breaking vote. Scott MacFarlane.
You see the number behind me, Nora. That's the magic number for Republicans. They're there. We're projecting 51 seats. That gives them control of the U.S. Senate. That gives the next president a Republican Senate. So impactful when it comes to Supreme Court nominations, a cabinet, legislation, border bills. All of this now will go through a Republican Senate, which, by the way, does not have a designated leader yet. Mitch McConnell is stepping back. Let me show you how we got to 51 and tell you what's still ahead. First off, Ohio, where Sherrod Brown, a resilient Democrat in Ohio, had strong labor support, had strong backing in the 3 C cities of Ohio, Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati. After 3 terms, we project he has lost to Bernie Moreno, the Republican businessman from Ohio. That's 1 seat lost from the Democrats. West Virginia was an uphill fight from the jump. The Republican governor, Jim Justice, served 2 terms in Charleston, projected as an overwhelming winner over Glenn Elliott. That's the seat vacated by the retiring Joe Manchin. There's 2. Montana is, at this point, projected as a lean Republican for Tim Sheehy, the businessman from West Virginia. I'm sorry, the military veteran from Montana, the 3-term Democrat John Tester there. Democrats haven't really defended so much in the battlegrounds. They have a good situation in Arizona, where the Phoenix Congressman Ruben Gallego has a lean standing right now against Carrie Lake, the Republican in Arizona. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada. Those familiar battleground states are also battleground states for the U.S. Senate. We deem Michigan a toss-up right now. Mike Rogers, the former congressman, against Alyssa Slotkin, who, by the way, represents the same district Rogers once did near Lansing. In Nevada, the incumbent Jackie Rosen against Sam Brown, another toss-up state for the presidential race, toss-up state still for the Senate. Democrats playing defense there, and they're playing defense in Pennsylvania, where Bob Casey, the 3-term Democrat, in a toss-up race against Dave McCormick. So at this point, Nora, you get a sense. Republicans have secured a majority. Now it's a matter of margins. Democrats are vulnerable to losing 2, 3 more seats as this night goes on. And for the Senate, every single piece of that puzzle, every single seat along that margin is impactful. Wow.
Fascinating to see those numbers and the Republican performance amongst those Senate candidates there, including Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania. That's his 2nd race for the Senate there, of course, and looks like he is in good position to win the contest there. One of the things is we're now past 1 o'clock in the morning, and as more of the vote comes in, and we know it has been a strong night for Republicans and Donald Trump, the question is, what was the composite of the electorate? Where did Donald Trump do well? Where did Kamala Harris not do well? So, John Dickerson, when you look at the exit polls, what have we learned about her performance with women?
And we could go through a variety of different areas, but let's just talk about women, because there was so much discussion about how women were going to be key to a Harris victory.
That there was going to be this giant gender gap, that women were going to come out overwhelmingly for Kamala Harris.
And particularly the gender gap would be driven by this overwhelming victory by Harris among women. Donald Trump was always going to do well among men, but she was going to swamp him with women. Well, the exit polls at the moment show, and they've shown this all night, that Harris has 54% of the female vote. Trump has 44%. That's just a 10-point gap. So in 2020, Joe Biden got 57% of the female vote. So he did 3 points better than Kamala Harris. But this is what's interesting to me. Donald Trump has done better with women voters. He did better in 2020 than he did in 2016, just by a little. And then in 2024, he has done better with women voters than he did in 2020. So he has improved with women voters. And think about the way he ended his campaign. You know, in a traditional sense, and his campaign advisors, some of them were saying this, is you've got a problem with women voters, college educated, women in the suburbs. And he did very little. In fact, some would argue leaned into his problems with women voters, and it didn't hurt him in the least in the electorate.
What does that say to you, John? What does this mean?
Well, what it says is that there is no, when Donald Trump won in 2016, there was some conversation about, well, the office will change him.
Yes.
There will be people around him who will help with his rough edges. The office
He'll
will
become presidential.
There's no question that Donald Trump is Donald Trump in full. He ended his campaign fully Donald Trump, and that is what Americans, it appears, are signing up for. It's certainly what the exit polls show. He has a lot of support for that.
And he went through a primary where he was challenged by other Republicans. Nikki Haley, a former governor, someone who worked under him as the UN ambassador, out there just recently saying he wasn't going to win supporters when it comes to women because he's alienating them with his remarks. But she lost that primary, and perhaps her bet here it's not as clear cut. I mean, it's just interesting again and again to come back to the two things that Trump voters told us. It's the economy and it's the border. Yeah. Largely, the Democratic ticket avoided discussing the border and immigration as much as they possibly could. There's going to be a lot of analysis of should they have leaned in and talked about it in a way other than there was a bill that should have would have passed.
Well, over whether Joe Biden, as one of his first acts as president of the United States, should have repealed so many of those executive actions and initiatives that had really locked down the border that Donald Trump successfully was able to run against him.